To help us think through that and frame that a little bit, I'd like to welcome our first speaker, who is Mitch Resnick from Lifelong Kindergarten. Welcome, Mitch. I'll just give a brief introduction to Mitch. So he's the professor of learning research at the MIT Media Lab, where he develops new technologies and activities to engage children in creative learning experiences. The Lifelong Kindergarten group that Mitch founded develops the Scratch programming software and online community, which is the world's largest online coding platform for children. He's also the author of the book Lifelong Kindergarten, Cultivating Creativity Through Projects, Passion, Peers, and Play. So welcome, Mitch. It's a real honor to hear from you and to have you part of this, this experience with us. And over to you. Thanks.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Catherine. It's great to be joining people. I had a wonderful time. Last year, I got to visit in South Africa, and I wish I could be there in person, but it's great to be able to join remotely for this webinar. Let me share my screen. Let's have a presentation. And I'll be talking today about some of the work in our group. So, and other people from our group are also here as part of the webinar, Natalie Russ, Rupal Jain, and others who've been very involved in developing some of the ideas that that I'll be talking about today, and we'll be joining you in the breakout sessions. I titled my talk, Sowing the Seeds for a More Creative Society. I want to highlight this idea of a creative society. I think in the last century, people started to think about a shift from an industrial society to an information society, where a lot of things in the world, the economics, the politics, the culture, started to be driven not by access to raw materials like oil and gold and diamonds and coal, but rather access to information, and that was going to be a driving force in the world. After a while, people started to realize it wasn't really just information that was most important. We're overwhelmed by information these days. And people started talking about the knowledge society. That's how you put information to use, how you turn into knowledge, how you understand things about the world. And of course, that's very important. But when I think about today's society, I think it's best to think about it as the creative society. Because I think in this century, the ability to think and act creatively is going to be more important than ever before. And I think we can all agree that the world is changing more rapidly than ever before, so that all of us are confronted with a never-ending stream of unknown and uncertain and unpredictable situations. So the ability to think and act creatively, to come up with innovative solutions to the unexpected things we encounter is more important than ever. So I think success and happiness in the future, whether it's for an individual, for a community, for a company, or for a nation as a whole, will depend upon the ability to think and act creatively. So in our group, we think a lot about how can we help young people develop as creative thinkers so they can be full and active participants and contributors to this creative society. As we've thought about it, we thought about, what are the most important elements to help young people develop as creative thinkers? And we've come up with 4 guiding principles that all start with the letter P: projects, passion, peers, and play. We've seen in our research that the most creative experiences come about when people are actively engaged in working on projects based on their passions, in collaboration with peers, in a playful spirit. So we see learning not as something that involves delivering information or delivering instruction to students, rather opening up our opportunities for students to work on projects where they experiment and explore and express themselves, where they take an idea and learn how to turn it into something new. Because that's something that'll be so important in today's fast-changing world, to be able to come up with a new situation and to think, how can I create something to share with others, work on a project? And we know that people are going to be most successful if they work on things that they care about. We've seen that people are willing to work longer and harder and persist in the face of challenges when they work on things they deeply care about. And they're most creative not when they're just doing this by themselves, but when they interact with others, when they learn with and from peers, with support from facilitators and mentors, where they're part of a learning community. And they do it in a playful style. And I don't just mean laughing, having fun. When we think of a playful attitude, we mean experimenting and exploring and trying new things. Just to give to get you a sense of this, let me show a 1-minute video of a workshop that we ran with a group of young people, probably about 10 to 13 years old, who are using some of our new technologies that we've been developing with programmable Lego bricks, but also with traditional craft materials to be able to design, create on the theme of to develop a park. And here my colleague Natalie Rusk will be describing some of the activities in this workshop.
The goal of these creative workshops is really to give children an opportunity to come up with their own ideas, imagine something, and then figure out how to design it.
We should still keep this plate, but take this.
They need to be constantly exploring, experimenting.
Oh my God.
Through natural discovery, by testing things, by tinkering, by experimenting, by creating.
They're using Lego motors and sensors, and then if it doesn't work the way they want, they start revising it.
So you have to kind of adjust the motor power so it actually has enough power to knock the lights off.
So they're really learning through having a goal, imagining something, and then bringing it to life. So rather than just thinking of the computer of something that I think, what am I supposed to do? They start thinking, what do I want to do with it? They start getting new ideas.
So, I hope you can see, even in that short video clip, how, putting these 4 Ps into action can lead to the development of creative expression and creative thinking. We can see all the Ps in action. The children are working on projects. They clearly work on things they care about. They're working together and learning with and from one another. And they're constantly experimenting and trying new things. Things don't always work. You can see when there are some mistakes, but they learn from those mistakes. We want to create an environment where students feel comfortable trying new things. And it's okay if things don't work right away. They adjust and adapt, because the most creative thinking comes when you're willing to take risks, to try new things. And we see that happening here. And the key point here, although this is showing some new technologies, the technology is not the main point. You can see there's a wide range of materials. Some are very common materials that were available hundreds of years ago, plates and sticks and cotton balls. So all these creative activities can be done with everyday materials. It does add on some newer things like motors and sensors that can interact and make things move in the world and interact. So you can extend the range of what's possible. It's also using our Scratch programming language, which you can see on the screen here, where children build programs by stacking together graphical programming blocks on the screen, somewhat like putting Lego bricks together, but to control the motions and interactions of things, both in the world, but also on the screen. So you can do this to create animations and stories on the screen, but also to control things in the world. But again, for us, what's important is to give a range of possibilities for children. So different materials will work for different things. So no matter what materials you have around, whether it's the most standard, sticks and plates and things in the everyday world, or some newer materials, all of those can be used as creative learning materials. The important part is to see the materials not as something that's going to be delivering instruction to children, but things that children can use to explore and experiment and create. Because I think that's really our ultimate goal with all of this, is for children all around the world to be able to have the opportunity to grow up where they do have chances to design, create, experiment, and explore, so they can develop those creative capacities. They'll be so important, not just in the workplace, but also to bring joy and meaning into their lives. When we give children opportunities to create, it both prepares them for job opportunities, but also gives them ways to get meaning in their lives and to be able to contribute to the community around them. So I hope that that's one thing, a theme that we can think about today, is how is it that we can bring those 4 Ps into action in all different types of settings, both in schools and outside of schools, at homes, in all different settings, to help people develop as creative thinkers so they can be ready to be full and active contributors. Thanks so much. I look forward to having continuing discussions on these ideas.